Ignored by almost every eye during the draft process, Brandon Podziemski is now the center of attention. His recent performance against the Los Angeles Lakers wasn't just impressive, it was one of those moments that gets etched into the league's collective memory. That half-court buzzer beater wasn't just a flashy play, it was a statement. It was as if he was telling the basketball world, "You're going to have to respect me." More than a spectacular highlight, that shot symbolized something much greater. It represented a player's ability to defy the odds, to go against the predictions and change the narrative around him. And more importantly, it reinforced that the Warriors still know how to identify raw gems and polish them with patience and precision. Podziemski isn't just another rookie who had a good night. What he's been showing goes beyond numbers. It's about mentality, about understanding the game on a level that few rookies reach so early. And perhaps the most fascinating part of all is that this could just be the beginning of his upward journey. If you really follow basketball, you know that certain moments are more than just statistics. They represent a turning point, a new phase, a bridge between eras. And that's exactly what Brandon could mean to the Warriors, the link between what was built over the past decade and what's coming when the veteran pillars finally retire. Looking back helps to understand this pattern. In 2018, the Warriors were facing what seemed to be the end of an era. The series against the Rockets was 3-2 in favor of Houston, and the media was already drafting the dynasty's obituary. James Harden's isolation-heavy style seemed to have found the formula to beat the Warriors' team-centric approach. But when everything pointed to collapse, Steve Kerr's team responded with the calm and excellence that define champions. They turned the series around while Houston crumbled under a ridiculous string of missed threes. It wasn't the end. It was a reminder that championship DNA doesn't vanish so easily. It was a statement that identity, consistency, and execution still beat shortcuts. Years later, history repeated itself with different protagonists. In 2020, Andrew Wiggins was seen as a failed bet. Some analysts even labeled him as dead weight. Nick Wright, for instance, didn't hold back in saying his presence in Golden State was a mistake. But those who watched closely saw something else. Untapped talent, a player searching for direction. In 2022, that same Wiggins silenced the critics. He showed he could be more than just an erratic scorer. In the finals, he did it all. Defended stars, grabbed crucial rebounds, finished plays with authority. He became an essential piece on the path to another Warriors title, and he proved once again that the franchise sees beyond the obvious. And that same vision that saw value where few others did is now pointing to Podziemski. The young guard, coming from Santa Clara, arrived without much noise. He was seen as just another rookie trying to find a spot. But it only took a few games for everything to change. Against the Lakers, his performance bordered on surreal. He hit 8 three-pointers, some from absurd distances, under pressure without losing composure. And that half-court shot? That was a signature, a moment that screams, "I belong on this stage." But his game goes far beyond shooting. Brandon plays like he's been in the league for years. His tactical understanding is impressive. He knows where to be on the court, how to move the ball, when to speed up and when to slow down. He fights for rebounds like he's much taller, and most importantly, he quickly absorbed the Warriors' collective system, something not every young player manages to do. At just 22 years old, he already shows a rare maturity. And that's the result not just of natural talent, but of study, dedication, and a mindset that perfectly matches the style Golden State values. The team that spent years trying to balance the veterans' experience with the arrival of promising youth may have finally found the key piece that connects those two eras. For a long time, the project of maintaining two generations in parallel was questioned. People said it was impossible, that the team had to choose between the present and the future. But now, they may be facing a real example that it can work. Podziemski represents that bridge. He's proof that yes, it is possible to prepare for tomorrow without sacrificing today. And for those who like numbers, he became the second youngest player in franchise history to make 7 three-pointers in a single game. The only one who did it younger? Stephen Curry in 2010. That connection isn't just statistical, it's almost symbolic. It's as if the cycle is renewing itself before our eyes. But what's most impressive about Podziemski is his development curve. In his rookie year alone, he led the league in charges drawn. That shows commitment, courage, attention to detail. And now he's already positioning himself as a reliable offensive weapon. What was once effort and potential is now turning into production and impact. He's not just filling a spot, he's influencing outcomes. And that says a lot about him, but also about the organization that shaped him. Golden State has been criticized for its draft choices, for questionable decisions behind the scenes, for trying to keep a title window open with a core that's no longer young. But when you look at Podziemski, you see that the development work is still active, effective, and alive. The game against the Lakers was a reflection of that. Not an outlier, but a clear image of a process that began way back when he was drafted. And the best part, there's still so much more to come. Brandon's journey is still in its early chapters, and everything suggests that what we've seen so far is just the beginning. His confidence, his tactical understanding, his commitment, everything points to a steady rise. Some say he's just another product of the hype, that he'll fade over time. But those same critics may soon be wondering how they didn't see it coming. The signs were all there. You just had to pay attention. And no, he doesn't need to be the next big name mimicking the past. The most striking thing is exactly that. He has the potential to build his own identity within a system that values authenticity above all. He doesn't need to copy anyone. He just needs to keep being himself. And that alone is more than enough to worry the rest of the NBA. When you look at the big picture, what's happening with Brandon Podziemski and Kevin Durant are not isolated stories. They are two sides of the same coin. On one side, the freshness of youth, the hope of continuity, the sparkle of something still taking shape. On the other, the weight of experience, the urgency to win now, the pursuit of reaffirmation. And nowhere else do these two extremes meet as strategically as in San Francisco. It's no coincidence that the Warriors are at the center of these two narratives. The franchise has spent the last decade building something that goes far beyond victories. They've shaped a culture, a way of playing, a standard of excellence. And now, they face the greatest challenge of all, maintaining that standard during a transition. Podziemski is living proof that this plan can work. He's not just a player with interesting stats. He's someone who has internalized the organization's values. He doesn't just play with skill, he plays with purpose. When you observe his positioning, the decisions he makes on the court, the pace he sets, you can see someone who completely understands the system. And that, coming from a young player, is extremely rare. And that's exactly the piece that makes the equation so delicate. Because if the Warriors go all in on Kevin Durant, they could end up losing the kind of talent that keeps the culture alive once the veterans are gone. Trading a promise for a certainty can be tempting, but it also carries deep risks. But there's a question that lingers in the air. How many more opportunities does Stephen Curry have to chase another title? With each season, the window closes a little more. Time is relentless, even with the greatest. And while Curry still plays at an extremely high level, the wear and tear will inevitably come. Thinking of Durant as the final piece that could give him one more title run isn't just a nostalgic idea. It's a strategy that might make sense. The chemistry has already been tested. The results speak for themselves. Durant on the Warriors was a partnership that produced 2 rings, countless historic moments, and a dominance that put the league on notice. The split happened, but the ties were never fully severed. And now, there might be maturity on both sides to reconnect even more effectively. But it's impossible to ignore the cost. Jonathan Kuminga, for instance, has been developing at an astonishing rate. His athleticism, offensive aggressiveness, and defensive versatility make him one of the most exciting players of the new generation. He hasn't reached his ceiling yet, and all signs point to him just scratching the surface of what he can become. Moses Moody is another emblematic case. Quiet, but reliable. A player who can come off the bench and make an immediate impact, whether by defending, shooting, or simply keeping the team's rhythm. He may not be the type of athlete who grabs attention with dunks or flashy plays, but his value within the rotation is undeniable. And of course, there's Podziemski, one of the most complete rookies in recent years. He's already shown he can be clutch, that he reads the game with precision, that he has ice in his veins and intensity. It's rare to find a player who combines solid fundamentals with a competitive personality right from the start, and the Warriors know it. The decision, therefore, isn't just about talent, it's about identity. The Warriors have always been a franchise that valued development. It's no coincidence they built a dynasty through the draft. Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, they all grew within the system. And that's why this possible trade for Durant wouldn't just be a market move, it would be a philosophical statement. This is where the front office will need to weigh each element carefully. Because while Durant is one of the greatest talents the league has ever seen, he also comes with a history of injuries, a heavy contract, and in a stage of his career where physical decline can emerge at any moment. It's not just about adding a superstar. It's about giving up what's been patiently built. Now imagine for a moment that this trade happens. Durant returns. The Warriors gain one more season of prominence. The offense becomes fluid again, terrifying. Defenses are forced to choose between doubling Curry or KD, and almost always they guess wrong. The team advances through the playoffs, reaches the finals, the spotlight returns. The world's eyes are once again on San Francisco. But what then? When the veterans retire, who carries the torch? Without Kuminga, without Podziemski, without Moody, the franchise could find itself in a painful rebuild abyss. A scenario where, in pursuit of one last glory, all future stability is sacrificed. And historically, that's been a trap for many franchises. At the same time, if the Warriors refuse this chance to bring Durant back, they might close out the Curry era with dignity, but without more titles. They could preserve their young core, but watch the prospects take too long to become reality. And that also carries a cost. That's why this moment becomes so symbolic, because it's not just about a trade. It's a turning point, a clear fork in the franchise's path. On one side, the risk of one final great flight. On the other, the promise of a sustainable but uncertain future. And while the executives evaluate all these variables, Kevin Durant remains silent, recovering, thinking, waiting, perhaps also reflecting on his own journey, because he, more than anyone, understands what it's like to be at the center of these decisions. He was the one who left the Warriors in search of something bigger. He was the one who tried, in different contexts, to build something from scratch. And he was the one who discovered that success doesn't depend solely on talent. It depends on environment, culture, connection. Durant never had that as strongly as he did in Golden State. And maybe he's ready to admit that. The connection between him and Curry was real. The synergy with Draymond, despite the clashes, was functional. And the tactical system created by Steve Kerr allowed Durant to shine without carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. He didn't need to be the hero, just needed to be efficient. And no one is more efficient than Kevin Durant at his best. On the other side, the Warriors' young players continue to evolve, silently, at a steady pace. They are the future. They are what comes after the lights go out for today's idols. And watching the franchise consider giving them up is like watching a play where the ending is still being written. It's possible that, in the end, this trade never happens. That the Warriors choose to keep their youth, to believe in the process, to accept that the path of renewal is slower, but perhaps more solid. Or maybe Durant decides to move on, to seek another destination, another context. But the mere fact that this possibility exists already says a lot. It says that the past still speaks loudly, that legacies still matter, that the NBA is much more than numbers and stats. It's made of choices, of intersecting stories, of chapters that reopen when you least expect it. And perhaps the greatest symbol of that is Brandon Podziemski, a kid nobody wanted in the draft, who arrived without spotlights, without hype, but now stands out as one of the franchise's most valuable pieces. He is proof that the Warriors still know how to find raw talent, patiently shape it, and turn it into a diamond. When we look at the legacy of the Golden State Warriors, it's impossible to ignore how much patience has shaped greatness. Stephen Curry took years to become the global phenomenon we know today. Draymond Green was a late second-round pick. Klay Thompson, even though he's now out of the equation, also went through a maturation process before becoming one of the greatest shooters in history. And now, Podziemski, Kuminga, and Moody find themselves exactly at that point, at the beginning of a road once traveled by legends. Trading this promise for the immediate impact of Kevin Durant is almost like looking at a fruit tree that is just beginning to grow and deciding to cut it down in order to harvest the fruit of another, already mature, but one that may not produce for much longer. The dilemma is pure gold, to bet on now or on the future. Steve Kerr, the coach who symbolizes the Warriors' golden era, also lives this dilemma deeply. He knows how to build a team around established stars. He did it masterfully during the championship runs. But he has also shown himself increasingly committed to developing young talent. His approach with Podziemski has been a reflection of that. Consistent minutes, trust in decisive moments, freedom to make mistakes, and learn. This approach is no accident. Kerr, like the front office, understands that dynasties are not maintained only with big names, but with solid foundations. And Podziemski has shown himself to be the type of player who carries that foundation. With a refined understanding of the game, adaptability, and a rare competitive instinct, he is not just a good rookie, he is a pillar. But in basketball, as in life, you can't always have everything. The interest in Kevin Durant, although not publicly expressed by the front office, is legitimate. He is a transformative player, and even at 35, he can still decide a playoff series. The fit with Curry was never a problem. On the contrary, it was one of the deadliest duos the NBA has ever seen. The offensive fluidity, the defensive versatility, the respect they both command on the court, all of that would make the Warriors once again a nightmare for any opponent. But at what cost? Kuminga has already proven to be a monster in transition, an agile, explosive defender with improving awareness. He's more confident, more aggressive, and is beginning to develop the consistency that was once missing. Losing this player now could mean watching a future all-star shine in another jersey, while the Warriors go through a last dance. Moody, on the other hand, is the type of player every championship team needs. Discreet, effective, reliable. He might seem like a supporting piece, but every coach knows how much that matters in crucial moments. Players like that win games, sometimes even championships. And then there's Podziemski, who already has the fans' trust, who has already proven his value against experienced teams, who already plays like he's been in the league for years. He represents the bridge between what the Warriors were and what they can continue to be. If the Warriors decide to keep this young core, they might not contend for a title immediately. But they ensure that the spirit of the team, the famous way of the Warriors, remains alive. And in the long run, that might be even more valuable. Now, if they bring Durant, there will be a real window, perhaps 1 or 2 years, to win another ring, to give Curry an epic send-off, to relive the 2017-2018 days. But the risk is that at the end of that cycle, they'll be left with an aging roster, no valuable picks, no promising youth, and no solid foundation to start over. This is the kind of decision that separates great teams from eternal legends, and that's why, at the center of this equation, it's not just about Kevin Durant or Stephen Curry, it's about Brandon Podziemski, because he symbolizes faith in the process, confidence in building, patience rewarded. Warriors fans, who for years have lived with the expectation of maintaining a competitive and innovative team, now watch with both apprehension and hope. They want more titles, of course, but they also want continuity. They want a team that, even after the stars are gone, remains relevant, continues to captivate, and that is only possible if there is balance. Not just youth, not just experience, but a harmony between past, present, and future. Kevin Durant may be the most impactful present, but Brandon Podziemski may be the most promising future. The decision lies with the executives, but the legacy, that will be defined by the choices made now. Maybe the right path isn't choosing one over the other. Maybe the true mastery lies in finding a way to keep the young core while still pursuing strategic reinforcements. Maybe Durant could be involved in a less aggressive trade, or maybe he himself will choose to return at below market value, understanding the bigger project. It's unlikely, of course, but not impossible. The NBA has already shown us twists far more improbable than this. And if there's a place where the improbable becomes reality, it's in Golden State. After all, it was there that a skinny point guard changed the game forever. It was there that a team revolutionized the concept of spacing and movement. It was there that the world witnessed the birth of a dynasty built on faith, hard work, and long-term vision. The Golden State Warriors, more than any other franchise in the last decade, have become a symbol of identity, not just because of their innovative playing style, but because of the way they've built their culture, through continuity, internal development, and a deep connection between the players and the community. When fans wear blue and gold, they're not just rooting for wins, they're defending a way of seeing the game, a philosophy that values intelligence over brute strength, the collective over individualism, the process over immediacy. That's why, in this delicate moment of decision-making, it's not just about trades and statistics, it's about legacy. Kevin Durant is synonymous with results. His time with the Warriors brought 2 championships, 2 Finals MVP awards, and an almost ruthless dominance over the NBA. But it also brought fractures, internal and external, a turbulent departure, clashes with Draymond Green, and a legacy that, while victorious, was never fully integrated into the franchise's DNA. Durant's return, while powerful in basketball terms, would inevitably rekindle those memories. For the more purist fans, it would represent a relapse into the win-at-all-costs model, a detour from the patiently built path after his departure, focused on rebuilding and developing new talent. On the other hand, Brandon Podziemski symbolizes the other path, the conscious restart, the harder road, but perhaps the more rewarding in the long run. The idea that it's possible to rebuild an empire without relying on external messiahs, with raw talent polished in-house, with players who grow alongside Curry, learn from Green, and gradually take on the spotlight. The post-2022 Warriors decided to invest in time. And even though that journey has had its ups and downs, with fluctuations, criticism, and doubt, today, it's beginning to bear fruit. Podziemski is one of those fruits. So is Kuminga. Moody, though less talked about, continues to hold his ground. And that's why a trade for Durant isn't just a technical matter. It represents an ideological choice, a test of identity. Are the Warriors ready to end the transition prematurely? Are they willing to reopen the window for an immediate title run and, in return, risk everything they've been building with such care? Or would they rather stick to the longer road, believing that Podziemski might not just be a good player, but the next symbol of the franchise? These questions echo not just in the front office, but in the hearts of the fans. Many of them grew up with Curry, lived through every championship, every stumble, every magical moment. They are emotionally connected to this narrative, and they want more than results. They want coherence. The Curry era is coming to an end. That's a fact. But the way it ends may define the tone of the franchise's next 10 years. If it ends with a new title and a triumphant return of Durant, it will be epic, but fleeting. A golden ending, yes, but one that requires sacrificing everything that's been carefully planted. If it ends with the rise of a new generation, led by Podziemski and Kuminga, under the mentorship of a Curry who passes the torch organically, then it will be a symbolic closure. An ending that, even without an immediate trophy, can build another cycle of glory. The choice, therefore, is between the explosive climax and the poetic conclusion. There is no right or wrong, only consequence. And in the end, maybe the answer lies in Curry's own words, who once said, "Our journey was never about proving something to others. It was about becoming the best we can be in our own way." If the Warriors stick to that philosophy, then Podziemski won't just be kept. He will be groomed to lead. Because even though the present still belongs to Curry, the future can, and perhaps should, belong to Brandon. Kai Sotto has been drawing attention for his talent and the potential to become a dominant center in the league. Standing at 7'3", he's not only a rim protector but also a player who has greatly improved offensively. The question is, would he fit into the Warriors system? We know that adapting to the NBA is not easy, especially for a player coming from an international background. But Kai has already shown that he faces challenges head-on. Since beginning his professional basketball career, he has displayed an impressive learning curve and a growth mindset that could make all the difference. The Warriors always prioritize versatile players who know how to move well without the ball and contribute on both ends of the court. And that's where Kai Sotto could shine. He's not just a traditional center who protects the paint, but also a mobile and intelligent player capable of helping with offensive plays. The big question now is, who will give Kai Sotto this chance? The Warriors could benefit from a young and promising center, but other teams may also be eyeing him. What's certain is that he has all the potential to grow in the NBA, as long as he gets the right opportunity. Kai Sotto's future is promising, but he still needs to find the team and system that best suit his style. If the Warriors decide to give him a chance, it could not only strengthen the roster, but also bring a new dynamic to Golden State's front court. After all, with the Warriors' winning mentality, the sky is the limit for any young talent. So, did you like the video? Don't waste any time and hit the like button because it helps a lot with spreading the word. If you have anything to add or want to share your opinion, leave a comment. We love hearing what you think. And of course, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates about our team. See you next time, everyone. Let's go together towards another great season.